And we are now joined by the former Republican senator from Minnesota, Norm Coleman, who is heading up a new sort of think tank here in Washington. Senator Coleman, thank you for being here. I do want to begin with this project that you are working on. There's a group on the left, as you know, called Center for American Progress. John Podesta heads that up, and it sort of serves as the policy home for Democrats, and it has served that way in their last successful election cycles. What are you guys trying to do here to match that?
Well, they have been. Center for American Progress has been very successful. They've got the C3 component, which is the think tank, and they're out there generating the ideas. And then they have a C4 component, kind of an action piece, that then really channels those ideas to the policymakers, to the potential policymakers, and then perhaps more importantly to the public at large. I would say a leader without followers is just a guy taking a walk. You need to have folks kind of supporting the ideas. We have a C3. It's headed by Douglas Holtz-Eakin, former head of the Congressional Budget Office, and they'll be the policy generator of a list of series of fellows. Ed Schau, former congressman, professor at Princeton, is one of our senior fellows. And then there's a C4 headed by Rob Collins, former chief of staff for Eric Cantor, and that's the outreach piece. And I'm hopeful that we'll be reaching out to elected officials, prospective elected officials, to Americans at large, to young people. We'll use new technology, kind of what we're using today. Our side can do a better job of getting the message out. And so ideas, message, outreach, we think we can have an impact on the future of this country.
What are the critical principles that you'll be emphasizing? And do you imagine this being sort of a blueprint for Republican leaders on Capitol Hill in the months to come?
Well, there are a lot of folks talking about blueprints. Is there a need for a new contract for America? First, let me state up front, this is center-right. If there are Democrats, blue dog Democrats, that want to support principles of limited government, not no government, but limited government, effective government, cost-effective government, strengthen national security, support of market principles that encourage entrepreneurship and economic growth, that's the stuff that we'll add. I think that's where America's at. Every poll that I've seen says that America is a center-right country. We saw that in polls in 2009. You saw it in election results in New Jersey, Massachusetts, Virginia, in which independents supported the candidate that espoused center-right principles. They were successful. So we think we're speaking for America. And those folks who want to support that, hallelujah. We also will be involved in supporting those who raise their voice on behalf of center-right principles.
And what do you make right now of this Tea Party movement that is happening inside your party? We saw RNC Chairman Michael Steele for 4 hours meet with leaders from around the nation of the Tea Party movement. He says not to try to co-opt them, but clearly your party wants to infuse it with the energy that we see from these folks, and yet they do not want to be wrapped in any kind of establishment place. How do you do this dance?
Well, first, don't discount the energy. I think the folks on the left did that at their peril. Second, that there are certain core principles in which the center-right Tea Party Republicans, and by the way, some Democrats, not enough, support it. And, the basic principles, the area of kind of synergy there are limited government, control of debt, and I believe strong national security. So you've got the principles. What you don't have is laying out the positive agenda right now. These are the solutions. I'm hopeful that what the American Action Network, the American Action Forum can be involved in, the groups that I'm involved with, will be out there articulating the solutions, positive ways to deal with the most challenging problems facing us on domestic policy and national security. So the energy is out there, the synergy on limited government, controlling debt, strong national security. I think you need to see a positive piece, and that's kind of a role that we see for ourselves. And
what about the bodies, though, Senator? Briefly, Senator Bai this week said he's not running for re-election, and talking about this evaporating middle in the Senate. Do you see any chance of bipartisanship emerging and kind of a centrist coalition coming back in the Senate?
I would hope that would happen. I think the loss of Evan Bai is a loss. Listen, I want my team, and I speak now as a former Republican senator, to have the seat, but losing Evan Bai, that's a bad thing for America. He was one of those guys that when I was offering proposals on energy, he'd work with me in spite of pressure from Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer, because it was the right thing to do. When you lose those voices that have the ability to reach across the aisle, I think it hurts the country and the institution. So, listen, I want to be part of a positive resolution of the difficult issues facing us. You need folks to come together. That's not the way in Washington today, and I think the country is suffering as a result of it.
In our final 10 seconds here, you opted not to run for governor of Minnesota this year. You had that prolonged Senate race that you barely lost there to Al Franken after a recount. Nobody begrudges you any rest, but is there a political office office in your future?
There's a life outside of elective office. I think I'm making a difference in what we're doing now with the American Action Network, and who knows what the future holds. As Brett Favre has shown us, you can say no, but, you know, yeah, there are always options open.
Senator Norm Coleman, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
David.
And we didn't hear a prediction there on whether Brett Favre would make another comeback for the Vikings. We'll save that for the next time. Twitter.com/TheNote. Keep the conversation going.
Give us a click again tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow on Top Line.